and make sure that it's working because I'm fucking unprofessional as shit.
What?
Oh yeah, come on. This is a. Here
Nice
we
to meet you,
go.
David.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh, I didn't know y'all didn't know each other yet.
We've never actually interacted.
I've seen him on Naturalist Capitalist, but that's about it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Reed's,
Yeah, I was
Reed's
gonna. Yeah, Reed really is the best.
I was just on his show, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
I need
we
to go
are-
through and watch that.
It was a fun one.
So, yep, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 6th episode of the United Voluntary podcast. All of my co-hosts are gone. Kitty is organizing the Anthony Hulin event, and then there's like a food drive tomorrow in Detroit. And Star is a midwife, and everybody is having their COVID babies right now. So she is in the fucking weeds with that. So I figured we're gonna do something just a little bit different this time and invite, some of my friends on, some of the people I like, and kind of talk about what the hell is going on in the country right now, because it seemed like 2020 syndrome had calmed down for a second, and then like all hell fucking broke loose again with Florida riots and everything that's going on with Boulder, and then like nobody's talking about what's going on in LA, but LA is essentially like a war zone with the homeless situation that's going on over there right now. So it's just clusterfuck. So how y'all doing tonight in this mad world?
I can't complain. I've been having a pretty good couple of weeks. Not gonna lie, it's been a good time.
Oh, by the way, I'm Clint from Liberty Lockdown. Nice to meet you guys.
I didn't introduce anyone because
yeah. I mean, other than the fact that the world's falling apart, I've had a pretty good day since I was on part of the problem. So it's fun. I don't know. I'm having fun, even though I'm basically like the meme where it's like it's fine and the world's burning. So
at some point, do you feel like you're just like kind of like reveling in the chaos? Like it's just like, well, I can laugh or I can cry, kind of situation,
As long as you survive it.
Right. Slowly, not guaranteed. But yeah, so I guess we'll jump right into with what's going on. Like they're kind of tied together, but with Boulder and the Second Amendment and what happened last night in Michigan. So anyone who wasn't watching my Twitter feed, essentially some dude's parents called the cops on him and said he was mentally unstable or something like that. There's a weird, nobody knows exactly what was going on. And they showed up to his house with like 3 MRAPs, like 20 SRT officers, like way overblown for like, and so dude freaks out and goes and grabs his rifle and puts on body armor and starts like live streaming, being like, you guys aren't going to come take me. Fuck you. Like, apparently he's like an indigenous activist or something like that. And he works with Hoplite Armor or something like that. Weird story. And I kind of thought like, that would be a good jumping point from that to what's going on with the Second Amendment, to the fact that like this was like a Syrian refugee guy kind of like at the end of his rope sort of situation. And I know you just talked about, part of the problem of how the lockdowns are getting people to the point where they're just fucking snapping. Like the mental health has gone out of control. And you combine that with the Second Amendment of the cops showed up so heavy to this in Michigan. I've never seen them do that before at a welfare check. It's like they were told that there's an AR-15 involved, and they sent the entire county down there with MRAPs, with body armor, rifles. They blocked off an entire like mile radius around, shut all the roads down for like a single dude in a building. And like
so crazy.
And it was like a wealthier property, so his neighbors are like 2 blocks away. Like it's like on like a ranch property, so nobody's in danger or anything. But the cops just heard like gun and went fucking crazy.
Has it been resolved yet, or is he still locked down?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't officially seen it, but the police said that he surrendered, and his girlfriend has said something about like he walked out and like nobody got harmed or anything. But it's definitely spooky.
That video that he posted this morning made it seem like he was going out on his shield. So I guess in a way, I'm glad to hear that didn't happen. But yeah, I mean, this is exactly why I'm so opposed to the red flag laws. Is like you lay this precedent out, and then you start to have a president like Biden who's floating the concept of executive action to get rid of any assault rifles. It's like, well, this is what you're going to see. I mean, you're going to see thousands of incidents like this if they actually go that route. and you're going to see a lot of people that do not give up, that do not go peacefully.
It didn't look like this guy was like he.
It didn't look like
he was ready to rock.
Yeah, it did. And
so I also think like the whole reason the police didn't breach the property is because he's like the son of like a really wealthy family, and it was a very nice property, like multi-million-dollar property. I think if this was just some trailer park or some apartment or whatever, because there's no hostage, there's nothing, the cops just would have said fuck it and gone in. They don't want to deal with pissing off some millionaire's family by shooting up their house and blowing all their windows up and everything. But I do think that like any other situation, they would have just rocked it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and that's why I'm saying that. It's weird because I'm always torn in these situations because like I want people that are willing to stand up for their rights, but simultaneously I don't want people to die. So I don't know how to feel about this. Like any guy that decides that he's going to stand his ground and protect his own property, as he has the entire militarized police force outside deciding to come in and take what they decide he's not allowed to have, even though, in my opinion, by God, he's allowed to have it.
It's wild too, because Michigan, like, we don't have red flag laws. They were shot down. Like, they did not pass. They were voted down. But it just kind of goes to show that, like, if the culture in the police department is that mentality of, oh, someone gave us a mental health warning over the phone and he has guns, let's just, full fucking deployment of everything. It doesn't even matter if there is red flag laws on the books or not, because they didn't have a warrant. He didn't assault anybody. It was literally his family being like, he's having a mental breakdown, come help. And then they're like, oh, by the way, he has a gun. And as soon as they heard gun, now it's a red flag warrant, even though that's not even on the law in Michigan. So that kind of shows like where the police and like the government is look at right now with firearms.
Yeah. At this point, yeah, I mean, you have to, if you actually are, concerned about the wellness of your significant other or your family member, I mean, you are playing with serious fire if you're going to call the cops to have them come do that. Like, show up yourself. Like, what are you doing? Why are you calling the cops? Like, these people they're going to come in there guns blazing. It sounds like had he not given up, he would be dead right now.
Yeah. They would have at least starved him out, if not like eventually just said screw it, because they went so overboard of locking down the entire community. Like I said, like a mile perimeter. So like his neighbors are like, what the fuck is going on? And there's fucking helicopters flying around. They got MRAPs and shit parked at like the end of both ends of his street. And it's like
for one guy.
No hostage, nobody got hurt. No terroristic threats. Like he's live streaming the whole time. So he's like the negotiators talking to him. Like you could have just had 2 or 3 patrol officers. It would have been fine.
But that wouldn't have been as much fun for them.
Oh yeah. Somebody sent a really hilarious picture of it was like 3 SRT officers in full kit and everything. And they're sitting in a golf cart on their phones, like outside this dude's house.
Yeah. And it does seem like they're trying to justify their budgets, with this is the problem with the militarization of the police is like you give them all this military equipment and then they have basically no reason for it. And then they see any borderline call that involves a dangerous assault rifle, then you can justify sending out MRAPs and shit. It's insane. I mean, the police
the cops theme song starts playing in their head.
Right.
And like,
right. Which is why they shouldn't have this equipment in the first place, because if they have it, they're going to try and use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a great conversation with Ricky Dale Harrington last night about the gun control, and he was like, he conceded that the only way that he could be okay with gun control is if it applied to the state as well. Like, if we're going to take the guns out of the hands of the most dangerous people in society, okay, let's do that. Cops are statistically the most dangerous people in society. Military is the second most dangerous. And then people with mental health issues, that's third most dangerous. So, if we're going to take guns away from the dangerous people, okay, let's take guns away from the dangerous people. And then
you got to go in that order, though.
Right.
In that order.
Yeah. Yep. Police first.
You
put your guns down before I put my guns down, and I probably still won't put my guns down. I'll probably bury it in the backyard. But
right,
good luck to you.
I love Reed tweeted out yesterday that he lost all of his guns in a voting accident.
I know, and people were like freaking out at him, like, if it's time to hide your guns, it's time to use them. And I'm like, I even comment, I'm like, are we not going to let him know, Reed? You're not gonna like cue him in on the joke. And I tagged Phoenix from Phoenix Ammunition in because he's local to me. He's a good guy, and his whole thing is like I won't sell ammunition to Biden voters. So he was fucking dying about it. Love that, man.
I hope that they have like civil rights cases where, because you know how like you got to get the baker to bake the cake for the gay wedding. Well, now you're gonna have to have like real Supreme Court hearings about Phoenix Ammunition not selling to leftists.
That's some brilliant like guerrilla legislation if you wanted to of like pretend to be like a disgruntled Biden voter and try to make it go to the court to like guarantee the right of purchase of ammunition regardless of what you are.
Ooh.
We got ideas here, folks.
Use the woke against them.
Yep.
I mean that's kind of like my whole thing because like it's not disingenuous, but I do come at them all the time. Like I've had a blast on Twitter of literally just taking me and all of United Pharaoh's Guard, which is like 50% black dudes, and just commenting on every gun grabber, like stop asking police to come and kill my friends. Stop asking police to come and kill my friends. And I
love it when you do that.
And they can't say shit.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? Oh, and except for the one dude that's like 65% of gun owners are white. And it's like, so fuck the other 35? Is that what you're saying? That's actually a crazy statistic because that's almost higher than the like minority population. I think it's like it's like 70% white and then 30% like spread out across like something like that in the population
in the US.
Yeah, I thought it was way less. I thought it was like 58% white.
Yeah, we make up like just over half of the population right now.
Okay, so even then though, the fact that only 65% of gun owners are white people, like that's surprising.
That means there's a hell of a lot of minorities that are strapped up, which is great.
Yeah, that's great. Have no fucking complaints with that. And I was like, that statistic doesn't mean what you think it means, In
fact, it means the opposite of what they think it means.
And that's why I'm glad Dave said on the show yesterday. He brought up the thing I say all the time of like the gun grabbing people don't understand that it's not going to be like these wars in the trailer park where they're coming and they're grabbing all the racist rednecks with the AR-15s. Like no, like there are more police and the police are more powerful in the cities, which happens to be where all the black people are. Mm-hmm. So regardless of how you feel about it, you can look at it through a woke ideology. You can look at it through a libertarian ideology. You can look at it through a communist ideology. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is the first people and the most people that are getting their fucking doors kicked in are black folks.
Yep.
Period.
That's exactly what led me into bringing you up on the show. Because I was like, Magnus has totally taught me about the quote unquote good leftists that still don't trust the state and still value, having self-defense. And you're totally right. I mean, especially with the black community that doesn't trust police. I mean, if you take away their right to self-defense and you leave them with only the police to call, good God. I mean, it can get really ugly.
And I mean, like everybody always talks about like, oh, if they come for the Second Amendment, there will be hillbillies in Appalachia shooting at cops, and they're like the trailer parks will rise up, and like it'll be all that. I think a lot of people kind of miss the reality of the matter that the inner city is going to become like Chicago 1990, where you have like communities like just shooting at cops if they come in the neighborhood, if they do mass gun confiscation. Like fuck you, dude. Like and that won't even be the first time some of these communities have done that, So
some of these communities are doing it already right now.
Right. So like you're gonna send like obviously I'm not simping for the police at all, but you're gonna ask these dudes and you're gonna walk up to them and be like, hey, just drive into Inglewood in Chicago and go confiscate firearms. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good fucking luck, dude.
You'd
Not
see
gonna end well for you.
You'd see a hell of a lot more autonomous zones if that shit happens, because you'd start to see, community policing, and people would have to defend themselves from the confiscation measures. I mean, it unfortunately, I think most, middle class conservatives would just turn over their guns.
Or just like they would do the same thing they did with under the first, assault weapons ban, and they would just put it in their attic or something and never talk about it again. And
right,
their kid will buy the house from them and find some awesome 1960s antique firearm and turn it over to the police for $300.
Right,
while we all cry on Twitter about it.
But the small minority that will actually defend their gun ownership with those guns, I don't want to see it, man. I really don't want to go down that path. So like you have you have two options. You either accept the fact that this is a gun-toting, gun-loving society, and you back the fuck off, or you see how serious we are about defending our Second Amendment. And I really hope that they take the first path.
And that's what I just keep trying to tell people. Like, if you want, like, I'm willing to have I avoid gun control debates like the motherfucker. Like, I even post that if I ever get invited on a next gun control debate, I'm just gonna point my webcam at my 3D printer that's 3D printing an AR lower and just leave, and just not even talk and just let the 3D printer go. But like I tell people, like, if you want to have an honest gun control debate, then you have to be honest that you're going to want to send the police to confiscate firearms, and that a lot of people are going to fucking die, because they'll do this wishy-washy stuff like, oh, we just want stricter background checks. It's like, okay, what do you mean by that? It's like, oh, well, we just want universal background checks. I'm like, okay, so you need a gun registry. And they're like, okay, we want a gun registry. I'm like, okay, that means you have to have every single gun registered. And they're like, yes. I'm like, that means you have to do a mandatory registry. And they're like, yes, which means like you have to enforce that with the police if people don't register. And they're like, okay. And it's like, okay, then now we can start having this conversation. Okay, you're going to send cops to people that have guns. This isn't like like you aren't just like showing up to a domestic violence call and it just might be two unarmed people screaming at each other. You're sending dudes to take guns from people that have guns. You have that on your conscience. And so many of them like wishy-washy dance around that because they don't understand.
Well, it's just like every other law. I mean, at the end of the day, every law is enforced by violence, and so yeah. I mean, it's particularly with this law, you are assuring the necessity of violence. Like you're going to have to violently take these weapons from many, many people in this country, and you're going to see a lot of deaths on both sides if we go that path. So I just for the life of me, I can't understand how anyone who's actually interested in diminishing gun violence would call on the state to go and try and take guns from otherwise peaceful people. I mean, you are demanding the most gun violence in our history if you go there.
Yeah, and there's actually a really good libertarian answer to the universal background check question. And that, like, the free market can provide here. It doesn't have to be a law. The idea of gun stores putting a sign on their door that says, we run background checks before we sell guns to people, because that's a thing private companies are able to do, right? Like, people do that before you hire someone. Plenty of stores do that before they sell things. You know, car dealerships run background checks. So this isn't a weird thing for a store to run a background check before it sells something dangerous. That's completely fine in the free market, right? And I personally, as a responsible gun owner who likes the idea of gun violence and gun safety being promoted, I'm going to patronize that store more likely than the sketchy one down the street that doesn't run background checks, right? And we can put these sketchy ass gun shops out of business and still have quote unquote universal background checks that aren't enforced by violence.
Well, for the record, though, I would probably patron the ones that don't do background checks at all, just because I'm based like that.
Fair.
But
I mean, that's fair.
Well, you guys go to gun stores? That's my question. That's because literally someone else commented like, "Oh, we can just go after the firearms manufacturers and the gun stores." And I'm like, I don't go there. I have like 400 rounds of ammunition and 3 rifles here, and only one of them was bought from a store, and none of the ammunition was.
Right.
But they don't understand that. They don't understand this like simple reality that, like, whether it be people like us, whether it be like, you know, redneck people out in Appalachia, and whether it be in the inner city with like gangs and, you know, even just like regular people, this is all operating in the gray market. Like, none of these people are like going to like a gun store or whatever. They're making their own ammunition. They're printing their own ammunition. Like, it's just, but they don't understand that because they don't understand, you know, the fundamentals of what a gun is or how a gun works.
There's the problem with having people that aren't gun nuts try and regulate this shit. I mean, it's like having someone who's, you know, taken 1 year of med school trying to operate on your brain. They don't have a clue what they're doing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
A good analogy for sure. I got into it with Andrew Yang on Twitter earlier today, or I tried to, and ended up getting into it with some of his supporters instead, because he posted some dumb shit about him meeting this mom on the campaign trail last week whose son died from gun violence in Brooklyn, and, you know, we need to change the laws. And I was like, I know you've never been to Brooklyn, Andrew. it's pretty clear you've never really spent any time in New York City at all. I don't know why you're running for mayor, but I'm sure you do understand at least
So
by
catty.
now. Oh my god, he's such a I liked his campaign for president. I don't like his campaign for mayor. And even if he didn't become like a complete sellout in between the two, like just everything about the way that he's running this campaign is fake as fuck.
I love how he called out the colleges. He's like, you guys keep sending more money to colleges, and then the colleges just set their price to whatever the fuck they want because they know that they'll get the loans and grants for it. And then
he's not wrong
money,
there.
None of the money goes to the teachers. It all goes to the fucking pencil pushers and everything in like the upper management faculty. Yeah, and that's why it's $300,000 to go to fucking college now. So it's like,
yeah, he had a pretty based presidential campaign, at least in the beginning. But that tweet about the gun violence thing really got to me because guns are hella fucking illegal in Brooklyn, like hella illegal.
Isn't New York like the worst place in the country? Chicago might beat it, but I experienced Chicago firsthand. Isn't New York like city worse for firearms?
I think it might be.
I think we lost David. He froze.
Oh, there we go. Well, am I back?
Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Fucking internet. So isn't New York City like the worst in the country when it comes to gun regulation?
I think Chicago beats us.
Okay, because I remember Chicago, you literally have to keep your handgun unloaded and semi-disassembled in a case in your house. It's like, why do I even own a fucking gun at that point?
That's pretty rough. I mean, California is not much better. You have to have a fucking what's it called, trigger lock on, and you can't have any of your magazines loaded. It's like, what the fuck use is this then?
Excuse me, burglar. Excuse me while I put together this fucking Rubik's cube.
Let me take the key or the trigger lock off, and then let me load this magazine. Hold, please, hold. All right, and we're ready.
10 more seconds, I promise. I haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny too because there's no shooting ranges in like Chicago. There also isn't any in Detroit. That really like bums me out because Detroit doesn't have any firearm laws. It's just the city council has bullied anyone from opening a fire range within city limits at all.
Well, it seems like it's worked out really well because now they just do all their target practice on the streets there. It looks like.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the article, but they busted in Detroit. They busted just 3 dudes, like regular normal ass Detroit citizens, black dudes. They were running a 3D printing factory pretty much out of their apartment. They were just cranking out guns.
Yeah,
so like
in Detroit?
In Detroit.
God,
so
I fucking love Detroit.
I love it to where they're like, oh, only like upper class, white people are doing 3D printing. Meanwhile, there's probably, because it's Detroit and I've lived here, so I have the right to say this, probably some poor motherfuckers scraped together some money to buy 3D printers and just were rolling it and just printing guns and making their own barrels and making their own kits and just selling it illegally out of Detroit.
Wait, you're telling me that prohibition created a black market? I don't believe it.
No way.
Impossible. No, that's fucking great. I love the entrepreneurial spirit of the hood. Like that's what you need, man. You need to fucking.
I mean, I have the wrong hat. I have a hat that says the motto of my city. It's Detroit hustles harder. So I commented that below the news article. But that goes to show, dude, like it's not as complicated as they think they are. Like poor people are going to figure this out and become quickly not poor people because of it.
Great.
Like I was a dirt poor trailer park kid, and then my dad bought a CD burner, and then I became big money.
I did the same shit, dude, in high school.
I became big money off that shit. So like, if my stupid ass could figure that out, then like some of the hood geniuses, because there's some wizard ass people
fucking
that are
geniuses.
super poor. They're fucking insane. Are gonna figure this out real quick, and good luck controlling it.
They already have.
I feel like Detroit's kind of a hub for that shit too. My time that I spent there, like there's a different attitude there than some of the other places that I've been. And
it's the most like genuine anarchist place in the entire country because there's like straight up like entire city blocks that like because it's Detroit, there's more abandoned buildings than occupied ones. So there's entire blocks that just have abandoned Victorian homes, and like even ones where they burnt down all of the buildings during the arson spree that we had, where it's just grassland, like in the middle of the city. You have a higher chance of being attacked by feral dogs that run around in packs or hitting a deer than you do being robbed in Detroit.
Just out of curiosity, is Detroit ever going to build back, you think?
It's building back now. There's definitely like a renaissance going on, but
okay.
What's spurring that renaissance is literally these anarchist communities that just showed up and went to these city owned, like they're not foreclosed by the bank. They're owned by the city, and they've just sat on them for like 30 years. And nobody wants to buy them because even though you could get a 3-story Victorian home for $2,000, you have to pay Detroit property tax, which is fucking absurd. So nobody wants to do it, especially for a house that already has all the piping and electrical gutted out of it by scavengers and shit. But you had these hippie anarchist kids just come over and take this shit over. And like they filled in all the windows with like bottle insulation, and they like set up like giant rainwater collection, and they just took over these entire blocks in Detroit. And like even like 7 years ago, before weed was legal, they were just like open weed farms and shit.
That's dope. This is where anarchy, broad spectrum people like you and anarcho-capitalists like me can really find common ground, because I could give a fuck less if bunch of hippies go and steal property that the government has seized and sat on for 30 years. That sounds like a perfect solution to the homeless, issue in this country. So let's do it.
Yeah,
go facts.
That's a lot of the things. Like a lot of it is state property, and these people are just like, fuck you. And DPD is useless. They don't do anything besides occasionally harass people and then beat the fuck out of people in gas stations, really. To the point where, again, Detroit's so anarchist that we were the first city to have like a large private police force. We have a private police force in Detroit, and they do better work than the actual cops. So it's like, it's anarchist
really?
as fuck. Yeah.
How surprising.
The only reason it's not like fully anarchist is because the government there is so fucked up. But
yeah, that's the fun thing. Like if you're a squatter or a hippie, Detroit's the most anarchist place in the world. But if you try to run a business or like own a home, it's probably I'm probably California's worse, or Chicago. But God, like they even have it to where if you live in Detroit, even if you work somewhere outside of Detroit, you have to pay Detroit income taxes. And if you hire somebody from Detroit, even if they drive an hour out of Detroit to go like work in like Toledo or some shit in Ohio, a state away, they will still hit that company up for taxes for the city of Detroit.
I think the term's the Laffer curve, but it's basically where like no matter what you charge in taxes, the state is only getting so much. Like you can say that the tax rate's 90%, you're still only going to get like 36% max. Like that's how it works. And I think that's exactly what you see in places like Detroit, where it's like, if it just becomes so prohibitive that people are like, well, then fuck it, I'm going black market. Like I'm going to stop reporting income. I'm going to stop reporting whatever to try and circumvent the system. So it's good. I mean, that's the one upside of a really oppressive state, is that you create kind of a anarchist / agorist underrealm that operates within it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely love the quote unquote bottom unity aspect of that. And then back to what we were talking about with the gun rights earlier, whether you're a champion of the phrase under no pretext or shall not be infringed, whichever one you're quoting, it's the same shit. It's the same rights and the same team.
I shared that picture out it was like a week ago when I was in Louisville, where it was me, an NFAC member, a Black Panther, a UPG member, and a Boogaloo Boy, and an ANCOM. And it was all there, and I put the caption as "Under no pretext shall the Second Amendment be infringed," which is and it's like, and then it has the meme below that of "The future is now, old man."
That's dope.
And like that's
I love it.
I forgive my ignorance, but where's the under no pretext?
That's Karl Marx. His famous quote is under no pretext should the workers be like, under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered.
Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, any attempt to disarm the workers should be frustrated with force if necessary.
I was thinking it was Malcolm X, but it was even better, Karl Marx.
and even then, like, I love that. I love, even if you're like a rabid anti-communist, you should love that, because, you know, they've played super wishy-washy with the Second Amendment of like, oh, the rights of a militia shall not be infringed. What does that mean? Blah, blah, blah. And then you go to Karl Marx and he's like, under no pretext, resist with force. It's like, there's no misinterpreting that.
No,
that means what it means.
It's arguably and objectively better than the Second Amendment, in my opinion. That quote.
It's fuck around and find out, pretty much.
Well, you have to pair the Second Amendment with like the Declaration of Independence to get the real weight of the threat that they are actually levying. They're like the people have the right to overthrow this government if it like infringes on their rights.
Yeah, you have to go to like the founding fathers and like look at the Federalist Papers and get into, because they were way more explicit personally, to where they're like straight up like, hey, we set up this government. We know that you're going to have to overthrow it in like 200 years. So you have our permission.
Exactly. I think that was the biggest mistake of the founders, is like they wanted to legitimize the document and make it a little bit more milquetoast, as opposed to writing it in the tone and tenor of the radicals that they were for the time. Like, I think it would have been way more efficacious had they gone with their based takes. If they were just like, you don't ever take weapons from people, period, motherfuckers. You know, like, just get real concise with it. It would have been great.
Well, my favorite one is like the weapons of the state, whether it be swords or I forget, it was like all the terrible implements of the state are the right of the people, was one of the quotes from the founding fathers. So that people are like, oh, they just meant muskets, and I'm like, nope, all of the weapons of the state.
Yeah. Hashtag recreational rocket launchers.
Yeah.
At a minimum.
I know, because I was talking about it of how I met David and through Yal. It was really funny because when that meeting first happened, I didn't know if I was in the right place. And I walked past a group of people and all I heard was recreational nuclear warheads. And I was like, found the libertarians.
Yo, tell me about this Echo Park story.
Okay. So we'll get onto that. So essentially there's been a phenomenon going on that I call like the lockdown shuffle. And I'm a really big, like, I care about the homeless a lot. And as a libertarian kind of person, I view it as not only are these people that we don't want the state to help them because the state is awful at it. And as libertarians, our whole thing is we don't need the government to help people. We'll help people. So I'm going to go out and help these people. But also that like they get fucked with by the police and the government more than probably any other group of people. And you've seen this get way worse under the lockdown, to where what the police will do, and we saw this in Grand Rapids, and this is happening in Echo Park in California a lot, is that they will come to these homeless camps and they will tear down their tents. They'll take all their property and everything. And they'll be like, hey, okay, so what we're doing, guys, is we're going to take all of your stuff and put it in a storage unit. And then we're going to take you and put you in shelters. And the homeless people are like, okay. So the homeless people go to the shelter, and then within like a week, they kick everybody out of the shelter because of COVID. And then they go back and be like, well, can I get all of my stuff out of storage? And suddenly all of it's gone. They can't find it. A lot of this has happened. And this has happened, like multiple cycles have happened this of like, oh, well, they go back out on the street, they get new tents, they get whatever, and then they get kicked out and be put into the shelters, and then they get kicked out of the shelters. Like, this has happened in Grand Rapids like 3 times. And as far as I'm aware, this has been going on in Echo Park in California since the beginning of the lockdown. And it's awful. It's horrible because like it's a combination of like police violence and state power and like the horrible bullshit of the lockdown of their trying to be like, well, we need to get these people off the street because of COVID. So we're going to put them in like, you know, shelters, but then we're going to kick them out of shelters because they're overcrowded because of COVID, while simultaneously people are losing their houses and like becoming homeless and shit because of the eviction crisis that's growing, which is definitely what I want to talk about with you, Clint, because you are the property expert on this. Definitely it's your jam
to some extent.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I'm in a tough spot on this topic because you know, obviously I do care about assisting the homeless population, but simultaneously, you know, I've seen many very nice places in California ruined by the homelessness epidemic. So it's a very tough topic for me. I don't honestly, I've also been robbed by homeless people a few times. So So I'm now harboring some internal resentment that I'm trying to work myself through. So bear with me. But yeah, as far as the eviction crisis goes, I mean, we had foreclosure and eviction moratoriums for basically the past year, and it looks like we're going to have them for another 4 to 5 months, if not through the remainder of 2021. Once that is lifted, that's when you'll see the true economic damage from these insanely stupid lockdown policies that we implemented across the board. So for the homeless crisis, which is already completely out of control, particularly in a place like LA, where there's over 80,000 homeless people. I mean, it's like, that's a very sizable city of homeless people within a very sizable city.
I mean, 80, like, see, the population of my hometown was 2,300 people.
There you go.
So.
Yeah, dude, it's really crazy. And I honestly don't have an answer for it. I mean, the truth is, this is a state derived issue. Like, the fact that, libertarians, particularly, really kind ones like you, Magnus, that want to go and help these people, it would be a lot easier for the wealthy libertarian folks to galvanize and create some sort of fund to assist these people and try and get them back on their feet, but in a meaningful way, not a way that they need continuous help for the remainder of their lives, even though some will need help for the remainder of their lives because they're mentally ill or whatever. But because of the structure of our system, where we've had so much wealth extracted from us, either via taxation or via lockdowns, that I'm not sure that we can galvanize enough people to create that fund at this point. And ultimately, we've broken the culture of the mentality of assisting our neighbor. And to get back to that is going to take a hell of a lot of work. So yeah, I mean, I love your heart, and I love that you're on this path, and I hope that you can come up with some good ideas to help these people meaningfully. I'm at a loss, just being totally honest.
What do you think about, David?
I think you touched on a solution earlier with Detroit.
Oh, yeah,
we have and not just Detroit. The statistic that really bothers me when it comes to homelessness is that in the United States we have, I believe it's 3 empty houses for every, or sorry, no, we have 2 empty houses and an apartment for every homeless person in America.
And I mean, just for the sake of the argument, I can assume you could cut that in half for like rental properties and stuff like that. But there is like a fuck ton of government owned properties that the state is just sitting on from foreclosure or whatever that they just don't do anything with ever, because they're not operating like they're not Clint, like they're not out hustling trying to get this property filled. Right. Usually, what they'll do is just be like, "Oh, well, it's $30,000 for this house," and then people will be like, "Well, the housing market says it's only worth like 20,000." And then the government will just go, okay, then it'll sit fucking abandoned for 20 years.
It's so crazy. And all they have to do is offer a tax waiver. Like, because you said that people won't buy these $20,000 houses in Detroit because the taxes are so prohibitive. If they would just say, for the next decade, if you move in here, we won't charge you property taxes. Boom. Now all of a sudden you get investors that are buying entire streets. They're renovating the houses. They're renting them out. Or you get nonprofits that can step in and say, we're going to build these houses up just to the bare minimum so that we can now put homeless people in them. There are solutions, but these are solutions that require government cooperation. Right. And that's why I don't see them as solutions.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've been saying it for like a decade now. Like, you want to fix Detroit, be like, okay, no property taxes for 10 years. And like, there you go. And you could even go as far as to be like, you could, like, in the beginning, you could be like, you can only sell these properties to Detroit residents. Sure. And even doing that, you would get like 25-30% of these abandoned houses filled with people. And then you would still have 70% to just give to whoever the fuck you want. Because that's how many abandoned buildings there are. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
And just think about all of the cost of policing and paramedics and emergency services that are used on homeless people that are overdosing on the street. If you could just funnel that capital preemptively into assisting them with housing and rehabilitation programs and work opportunities, like, obviously I am against the state. I don't even want there to be welfare programs because I'm like hardline. Yeah. But I mean, if we're going I'm
that kind of anarchist too. Like, preach to the choir.
Yeah, but if we're going to have these programs, I would much rather my taxes be spent towards assisting these people to get from up off the ground as opposed to keeping them on it forever. And it seems like we just burn money, just barely keeping these people alive as opposed to trying to remedy the actual fucking issue.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Harry Brown, Joe Jorgensen quote of the government is out here breaking people's legs and then handing them crutches and saying without me you wouldn't be able to walk. We need to stop breaking people's legs and we need to make sure that they can walk before we start just snatching crutches out from under people. And maybe we need to do some surgery. Maybe we need to spend some money and actually fix some legs because we fucked them up, right? Like, so
True.
I'm personally
especially the
okay
military
with
vet homeless. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm okay with the idea of 10, 15 years of the state existing and maybe getting bigger. I think there's a way to like ramp up into completion in a way with welfare of like, let's just actually fix it. Maybe we need to spend an extra couple $1 billion, pull back the military budget and put it into some welfare programs, actually get people out there doing some shit, and then they don't need us anymore. But right now we're giving them just enough to where they will forever need to be on welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the government doesn't want to solve the problem because they're the state.
No.
Like if they ever solve the problem, then all these social workers and fucking shit will never have a job anymore. So they want that. But definitely, like, it's funny too. You bring up like Echo Park is it's not a normal homeless community to where this is more new and it's predominantly made up of vets, white people, and recently homeless people. Like these are people that are COVID victims.
Yeah.
And,
right.
and
lockdown victims specifically, please.
That's what I meant. Be specific. Like so what pisses me
state violence victims.
Right. And again, what pisses me off again, like, libertarian property rights, like, yes, these people don't own the park that they're sleeping on, but it pisses me off at a deep level as a libertarian that the police go and destroy their property.
Yeah, it's super fucked.
It's fucked because like you think about it as a homeless person. It's like, okay, I'm fresh homeless. Like I'm fucked. I have nothing but the clothes on my back. And then someone gives you a tent. And it's like, okay, I have shelter. Then someone gives you like a razor. Then someone gives you a cell phone. And like you start like accumulating property that may get you out of this situation. And then some cop comes and takes all that and throws in a fucking dumpster.
No, it's a disaster. I mean,
they're
problem
literally solved,
Yeah, they're putting them back to square one when they, I mean, it's evil. I mean, it's just unspeakably evil. I can't understand the justification for it. And are the homeless people like, are they dropping dead of COVID? Are these outbreaks that are forcing them to remove them from these communes or whatever they're throwing them in? Is there a reason for this? Because it seems as if it's just malicious based off what.
Yeah, I mean, like there's no data on like exploding amongst the COVID population, amongst the homeless population. Yeah. Yet they have gone hard as fuck on them lately. Like I said, in Grand Rapids, they have torn down the homeless camp in the public park and put them in shelters and then kicked them out of the shelters 3 times since the lockdown started. So like imagine like some goon coming in your house, grabbing you, taking all your shit, throwing it on the street, and then taking all your shit and putting it back in your house 3 times over the course of a year.
Do you think that they're just trying to make their lives so miserable that they leave?
I think that's definitely like part of it. I also think that like not to be too ACAB of a scummy, like I've hung out with the leftists too much, but I just think that like because of the lockdowns, the police have had nobody to fuck with. And the homeless, homeless can't go anywhere. So, hey, here's this population of probably unarmed, mentally unstable, just fucked people, like innocent fucked people. And we can just go out and just cause chaos and harm them.
Yeah. I haven't seen any
I wish it wasn't like that, but like it the more it goes on, the more it just seems like that's what's happening. Because I can't think of any other justification of why they would just keep fucking with the homeless people.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updated data to your question, Clint, about whether or not there's a bunch like COVID outbreaks in the homeless camps. But I remember seeing stuff early, like a year ago or just under a year ago,
like right at the beginning, pretty much.
Yeah, that there was nothing because everyone was expecting it, right? Everyone was realistically, and I think correctly, worried about the homeless population because they're not sanitary, right? They're not cleaning themselves, they're not washing their hands and taking showers, and like they don't have hand sanitizer on them that they could just use 1,000 times a day. They're crammed together, they're constantly like they're at risk.
Be screwed in a pandemic. The first people to go would be the homeless people.
They realistically, yeah. So people were realistically worried about it, and there really wasn't anything, and people were kind of like, well, this is weird. And I haven't seen anything since then.
You want my thesis as to why?
Because it's all bullshit.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, my thesis is that you don't need to be taking all these added precautions because the truth is there aren't many super elderly homeless people. They die young. I mean, that's the truth. Because if you're a drug addict or if you're a homeless person that's living on the street, you're not going to die at 90 of old age.
They might look 60, but they're probably like 35.
Right, exactly. Like the oldest homeless people you normally see are like 50. So I think that's the truth, is that this is just relatively a benign virus for people that are under 50 years old. And additionally, they get a lot of vitamin D because they spend a lot of time outside and they get a lot of sun. And that was the main thing that anyone who was, holistically attacking this virus outbreak was telling you repeatedly, is that sun and vitamin D is really key for your immune system to fend off this thing. So I think that I just think that it proved basically the more reasonable thesis about COVID from the beginning. That's my thought, at least.
Yeah. And definitely, like, it just goes to show of, like, a lot of people kind of hide it, but I always bring it up that in California, there was a guy that what he did was he took, like, tiny home theory, essentially, like building tiny homes, and he turned them into portable shower stations for the homeless, where there'd be like soap and like a razor in there and everything. And he would drive them around California to help the homeless people. So they're like, hey, dude, take a bath, shave, maybe you'll be able to get a job, whatever. They shut him down. The government did. So like so many people don't know how, like, it's borderline illegal to help the homeless in America in a lot of cases. And I think it's just because the government doesn't want competition. Like,
that's so fucking crazy, man.
That's literally how I view it. Like Mike Bobby, he's the guy I run the Mad Liberty podcast with, which is like the official Boogaloo podcast. This is just more the unity thing. He's talked about how, like, in Arkansas, like, a lot of times people will show up with guns to go, like, do like clothes drives and shit like that, because the police would come and fuck with them and shut it down. Be like, do you have a permit to hand out these free clothes to homeless people? And it's like, what the fuck?
I mean,
we got shut down for that. We were handing out Larry Sharp t-shirts in Union Square the last day of his campaign in 2018, because it was the last day of the campaign. It was like Monday, election day is tomorrow. We had like 200 or 300 extra shirts. So we're just like, fuck it, let's just go stand in the middle of Union Park and start handing them out. Like, let's give it to like every homeless person we see. Maybe they'll wear it tomorrow because it's a clean new shirt, and free advertising, right? Like, that was literally like our thought process. Yeah, we're like, fuck it, let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's have a bunch of walking billboards and help homeless people.
Very libertarian. I love it.
Yeah, that's
I love it.
Right. And so the cops started fucking with us. So we actually went out, and I don't know if either of you guys have spent time in New York City, but across from Union Square, like just down the block, there's a Taco Bell. And there's a storefront right next to it. And the Taco Bell in the storefront, we're like, yeah, you can stand out front. We don't give a fuck. And so the cops couldn't fuck with us because we had permission from the businesses, but like Taco Bell was being mad chill, and they were like, yeah, we'll back you up. You guys can stand there, give out your shirts. I don't give a fuck.
This is like the most libertarian story ever. Like, literally, the more you tell it, the more I'm like, holy fuck.
It might be the best advertisement for Taco Bell I've ever heard in my life.
Right. I was
supported
honestly
the homeless when the police said no. Buy Taco Bell.
Right. Taco Bell is more helpful to homeless people than the New York City government.
I would believe it.
That's a low bar, but I believe it.
It is a low bar. It is a really low bar.
I only went to New York City one time, and I slept in my car in Jersey City in a parking lot.
That's a good idea.
In a parking lot of Walmart. And then I would ride my bike across the bridge. And
sorry, I broke. Can you see the scar? I guess you probably can't.
Not really.
There it is.
You're glowing too much.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But anyways, I broke my hand in a bike accident in Central Park in like 2012. So
yeah.
So my entire New York experience was in the ER and then getting emergency surgery and then flying home for another surgery. But I did get to see the Book of Mormon on Broadway before I left, so that was cool.
Dope.
I mean, I went from 3rd Avenue and heading towards the Brooklyn Bridge, and that was like probably like 10 minutes or whatever into getting into NYC, and because I'm a cyclist. I used to be a courier in Chicago, so I was the crazy motherfucker that was like weaving through traffic and running red lights. That was me.
Nice.
So I went to New York, and I was in NYC for like 15 minutes before a taxi almost fucking killed me. And I was like, this is the real New York cyclist experience. Like,
yeah, dude. Well, obviously I am not a cyclist since I rented a bike and then broke my arm in Central Park. But dude, no wonder you're so like not afraid of anything. You are a fucking bike courier. That makes so much sense.
yeah, I don't know.
It does explain a lot.
I'm weird. I've lived in a lot. I don't know. I just have, I guess, it's a combination of no value of my life, along with just like finding everything relentlessly entertaining. Like I remember I was in Chicago, and somebody walked up like it was like I think it was outside of Crocodile, which is a club if anyone in Chicago knows. And this guy walked up to me and pulled a knife on me and was like, "I heard you flirting with my girl." And I had again like, and I literally just kind of like giggled. And I'm like, "Me? You think I'm hitting on your?" Because this dude was like.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and he's like, "You right." And then he walked away.
Had you been?
No.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even go in that club.
Like, that would have been way more dope if you had totally been hitting on her and you're like, "Me?" And he's like, "No, you're right."
No, yeah, because like I was just doing courier work in the area and I was like outside like smoking a cigarette after dropping off a fucking package and some just random dude comes out of the club and is like, "You flirt with my fucking girlfriend." And you know, like my high pitched voice and like I'm like, so I just find it hilarious. I find it more funny. And I have this weird thing of like I blend in super hard. I don't know why. People have told me this a lot because like I lived in South Side Chicago, like just north of Inglewood and Canaryville. I was one of like maybe 10% of fucking white people there. Right. And I would walk at night with like headphones in and just like walk around. I never got robbed. I never got stuck up. Like I'm like fucking invisible or something.
That's a trip, man. Maybe you just look fucking intimidating at night. This
was before the beard. So this is the baby face that I have under here. Like, because I have the babiest of baby faces under this beard. This is just the lockdown beard. Which I don't gonna have to stay.
I don't get fucked with because I'm thick and I look kind of like mean. But yeah, I do have a voice though that like. Because it's deep, people can't hear me when I talk, so I blend in that regard. But yeah,
I mean, yeah. I'm 6'2", but I'm skinny. But I think I don't know if anyone saw from the picture. I have a scar that goes from my eyebrow all the way up to my hairline because I had a angle grinder blade like stick into my skull.
Ooh,
Jesus.
And that I've like super extreme RBF. So there's like just like 6'2" dude like growl. So maybe that. But then if they heard me talk, they'd be like.
You know? That's when I finally made the connection. So like we met in person.
You were in my car.
I was in your car
for
a few hours. And then we followed each other on Twitter for a few months now. And I finally made the connection the first time. I think it was the first time you went on Reed's show. I finally watched it like a couple weeks later and I was like, "Oh, that really is the guy," because I saw your video, the video that got played on like Jimmy Dore. Obviously, everyone in the Liberty Movement saw that, and I was like, "Hey, I know somebody that was there for that."
You're like, "I know him,"
right? And I was talking to another guy that was in the house in Michigan. That he was like, "I feel like they all have beards and they all look the same, so it's not like it's hard to tell."
All the Michigan Boogaloo boys,
right? Yeah, you all have beards down to here, and you're always like, you know.
Was that the first time? Because I remember having conversations with all the Yal people. They're like, "What's the Boogaloo?" And that was like that was before the lockdowns, wasn't it?
This was after. This would have been this was like 4th of July.
Okay. Yeah, but it was before I had like caught steam and like me and I forget his name. I lost touch with him. Like showed up in like Hawaiian shirts and I was like carrying my AR in like a guitar bag.
Yes. And then we lit fireworks in a fucking hotel parking lot
at a building.
Best 4th of July ever. We were actually. I was just talking to Jesse. We're gonna do a reunion somewhere in the desert in Nevada. So we don't light buildings on fire. But we should do a fireworks fiasco reunion.
Dude, if you do in Nevada, let me know. That's not far from me.
Yeah. Where are you? Oh, you're out in Utah, right?
No, I'm San Diego.
San Diego.
He's in the hellscape that is California.
The hellscape that is California
for like 4 more months. But I mean,
Where
Vegas.
Where you running to? That's the question.
I don't know. I'm gonna get an RV. I actually just got my media pass approved for Freedom Fest, which is at Mount Rushmore.
Dope.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore in July. So it's 4 days, and I get to kick it with Dave Smith. That'll be fun. And then I'm gonna get an RV and just tour the country to all the states that didn't have harsh lockdowns and decide which one feels like home.
You going to Pork Fest?
That's in like a month, isn't it?
I kind of want to get everybody to like. That would be super cool to get all of like Liberty Twitter. Like,
Dude,
in a
we need
place.
to. We need to. For
I mean,
real.
we need to set up like a GoFundMe of like gas
Pork
money and
Fest
shit
is
to get
June
everybody-
21st through the 27th.
Especially because like
Okay.
my whole
I'll try.
thing.
I don't know.
My whole thing is like like stop talking because
I know.
like
You've inspired me to do a lot more, so I really appreciate it because I was definitely the guy that you rail against, the one that talks a lot of shit but doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. I mean, obviously the lockdowns also inspired me to do a whole hell of a lot more. So
Hey,
it's
from your story, you went from like doing nothing to like successful podcasts within a year. So like you're getting
True.
it.
I'm
Let's say
doing something, but
if
that still ain't taking the risk you are though.
right. But like if you decide to be a talker, then you need to be an effective talker. Because
True.
like when it comes to my movement, like I am not the most militarily trained. I am not the best shot. I if somebody gets fucking a bullet in them, I'm probably not going to be the best dude to stitch it up, but I can talk.
Right.
So like if you're going to be a talker, be a good talker. But if you're a 32 follower Twitter idiot that like you should probably stop talking and do things. You know, like stop just retweeting everything that Clinton, me, and Dave says, and like go out and do something. You know,
And then spend an hour at the end of the day and go through and retweet everything the three of us say.
exactly. You know,
while you're
I
at protests, you can still retweet us. It's two birds, one stone, baby.
yeah,
Yep.
because it's wild that like Clint, you were the first person I talked to like start this whole fucking ride.
Unbelievable. and we've both been on our own kind of separate but similar trajectory or ride. It's very weird. It's like fate brought us together. Your speech brought us together.
Hey, you found me. So, and then it's funny because again, like me and David knew each other and didn't know each other, and it was like
it's fucking weird, man.
Like I said, as soon as you mentioned Yal, like it all like fucking DMT flashback. Like I was like, I remembered your face, I remembered your voice. I'm like, I got Arby's with this motherfucker. I know this dude.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was I almost made the connection and I was
My
questioning
beard
it.
was infinitely shorter then. It was like here.
Also
Like,
true.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was like, especially because you don't have you don't go by your actual name. And so I was like, the last thing I wanted to do was have you not remember me and be that weirdo spook that like DMs you on Twitter and is like, hey, are you actually this person that worked with Yal and blah blah blah? Like I was like,
I'm not a fan or a reporter at all, I promise.
Right. My social anxiety was through the roof. I was like, this guy's never gonna talk to me ever again. He's gonna I'm gonna be a spook. I'm gonna be in the same boat as Nicholas Sarwark, and I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna be a Fed for the rest of the Liberty movement.
No, his name is no longer Stalwark. It is Noah. None of the above.
Hell yeah. Hey, Magnus, I know you roll with like the real 2A defenders, so I'm sure you guys stay more abreast of the news and like the real inner workings of the government's machinations when it comes to getting rid of assault rifles and things. Do you think that this is actually coming down?
Oh, 100%.
Really?
Because they're intentionally, if you look at who's been grabbed by the police lately, it is all the on the ground 2A people. You have my friend John Slabinski. He's the founder of UPG. He got grabbed. You have Daniel Baker. He was I don't know if it was SRA or if it was John Brown Gun Club. But again, armed like left-wing radical anarchist, he got grabbed. And then you see all these instances of them targeting Black Panthers, of them targeting like anyone who has guns, pretty much. I shared out the picture, but it was a U.S. Army briefing, and it's like, do not associate with any of these domestic terrorist radical groups. And it had Oath Keepers, 3%ers, Proud Boys, Anti-Fascist Organization, like the actual like Antifa flag. Right. Black Panthers, Boogaloo Boys, Pepe for some reason. You know, like literally everybody. So they're going after the gun groups first because these are the people that are loud and proud. Like, I will resist, and that makes me show that, like, if you're willing, like, from the government's perspective, if you're willing to fuck with the quote unquote domestic terrorists openly without even caring, and the media won't even cover it, like, thank God finally the mainstream media is catching on to Daniel Baker, because I've been screaming that from the fucking rooftops of, like, hey, all you Antifa people and all you BLM people that are, like, calling for the FBI to run around and arrest domestic terrorists and begging for gun control, they grabbed one of your people first. You know, first. So it's like, hey, yo, and finally that's starting to catch mainstream news.
Do you think that the left is waking up to the fact that, like, they need guns too? Like, more broadly speaking,
I think it's blowing the fuck up to where, like, the fact of, like, you would occasionally see. I always reference to where in Lobby Day in Virginia a year ago, there was 6 people that showed up to from John Brown Gun Club to that massive Second Amendment protest that happened in Virginia. 2 of them had OK rifles. The rest of them had, like, boomer guns, and one of them had a fucking crossbow. Fast forward a year later to Georgia, where they had a armed march, and dudes looked just like fucking any, like, militia dude or whatever, expensive ass guns, legit kit, talking like, and a lot of these people follow me now, and they're literally like, train every day, go out every day, dry fire every day. Like, it's getting serious.
Okay.
So, like, I do think, like, that
gives me some hope.
Yeah, I do think it's like exploding in a way that makes it seem, because I think it's very equivalent, because there's a lot of people that talk on the right about being like, guns and training and we'll fight the government, and they're like 300 fucking pounds, and they shoot their gun at a static range or whatever. And then you have a small portion of, like, real motherfuckers on the right, to where the left doesn't have all that dead weight, to where it seems like the people that are interested in firearms on the left are like motherfucking revolutionaries. Like, they're taking it extremely serious. So you do what I'm doing. You combine those two things together.
You actually have a force at that point.
And then all of a sudden, like, the Daily Beast starts writing smear articles about you, like me.
Hey, radical leftist Magnus.
If you're not getting a smear piece written about you, you ain't doing shit. So I am officially not doing shit yet. But now that I've been on Dave's show, I'm pretty sure the Loser Brigade will start to fucking, get their wheels spinning. We'll see. It'll be fun.
Well, they can't do shit to you now because you're flanked by 2 pride flags.
That's right.
You're sandwiched. You're sandwiched right now between the pride flags.
And for the record, I love gay people, so deal with it.
I have binders full of women.
I do. I have binders full of homosexuals.
Stop it. Oh fuck! But it's so funny though, because I'll send both of you guys this, but I did an interview with a Turkish newspaper that had English reporters. They're like, so it's essentially the BBC, and they interviewed me in Louisville, and they put the headline as "My Day with a Leftist Militia." And all of us fucking died. Like, every one of us in the movement are like, and they put a picture of NFAC in the background of, like, the thumbnail.
Yeah.
So, like, we, like, clowned on him in the DMs, like, dude, like I told you, like, multiple times, like, we're libertarians, whatever. And like, oh, well, you oppose Donald Trump, and English logic. Like, they're literally from England. They have no idea what the fuck is going on in America. They're so confused by the shit. So finally,
honestly, I love these articles. The articles that paint you as a leftist are my favorite articles because I use them constantly to argue with leftists that call you a racist. Because I've had to defend you by name on Twitter and Facebook, like, multiple times, because like, especially when you went on Jimmy Dore, right? Like, that was a huge deal. Like, everyone was like, Jimmy Dore is platforming a white supremacist Nazi, and I'm like, here's a BBC article where he's a leftist. Like, it makes my job so much easier to defend you.
Of all the people I know in this movement, I cannot imagine of anybody but Magnus being labeled that. That is so fucking crazy to me. Like, wow.
But I love it though, because, like, then they changed it to "My Day with an Anarchist Militia," and I'm like, okay, that's acceptable. But the viral tweet still says leftists, so it says "My Day with a Leftist Militia" in the tweet, and then the thumbnail says "My Day with an Anarchist Militia." and it like just like not only does it work with leftists, but it also goes like of any time that somebody asks me like, does the media actually understand what the fuck is going on in America? I just send them that tweet and be like, behold, they have no fucking idea what's going on in this country.
No fucking idea.
They don't. And I think maybe that's a good thing. I think maybe it's good that they don't have a clue what they're actually up against, because it gives us tactical advantage.
And that's why I love, because I've gone on your show. I've gone on like I've yet to go on well, I guess Alex Jones counts, but I haven't yet to go on a conservative show, which I want to really bad. Just like Phil, I talked to Phil from All That Remains, and he's like, these boomers don't fucking understand, and they would love to talk to you, but they're boomers. I'm like, yes, that's the conservative party, unfortunately. But I've talked to a lot of libertarians and a lot of leftists that are American, and the leftist Americans are like super red pilled on guns. They're like, yeah, blah, blah, at least all the people that I've talked to, like Nico House and Combo Couch, like all those people, like super red pilled on guns.
Love those guys.
But then I talked to, like, I went on a podcast with Kevin Logan, which is like a UK like left wing dude, and he was just so fucking confused. He's like, but why the guns? He's like, I know the leftists have guns, but that's dumb. Why does the leftists have guns? And like just trying to like struggle to understand what's going on. But then like I guarantee, even if I took you, Clint, and just dropped you in the scene that happened in Louisville at the Breonna Taylor event, like the main speaker is sitting there screaming about how Joe Biden doesn't help black people, and everybody has guns. So you would immediately be like, okay, I can fit in here perfectly fine.
I'd be like, this is dope. This is like the most based rally I've ever been to.
But then the UK reporters were like fucking like deer in the headlight, like, what is going on? I thought black people were supposed to all be Democrats. Why does everyone have guns? Like, just shell shocked.
No, I love the confusion, and I really love the fact that like there are more people than just the right wing, because we need. I said this on Dave's show. We need more than just the right wing to be willing to defend the Second Amendment. I mean, it's not about the Second Amendment. The paper doesn't mean shit. They need to be willing to defend their right to possess firearms, period. Like, it's not enough to have the right wing, especially the fucking 300-pound, boomer cons that you're talking about. They ain't going to do shit. They're fucking brother's the cop that's going to come and take it. So
my cold gout hands.
Yeah. And no disrespect. I mean, I'm sure there's some old boomer cons that are super overweight that will actually go down.
Yeah, will fuck you up
on their shield. But I don't think there's many.
They'll shoot you from 400 yards in their utility scooter. That's true.
Yeah, it's funny that you guys brought this up a couple of times, because that's kind of the culture that I grew up in. Is that like the guns? Culture? Yeah, I grew up in rural upstate New York, where all of my friends have guns. Like, I've been shooting since I was fucking 8 years old. My dad's a Marine sniper.
Real quick story. I dead ass saw more Confederate flags in upstate New York than I did the entire time I lived in Tennessee.
I believe that. I hardcore believe that, because upstate, we don't understand that we were on the other fucking team, and that we were on the winning team. Like, why would you support the losing team that wasn't even you? Like, you have no heritage in the South. Like, people that live in upstate New York have lived in upstate New York for forever. Like, my family, I can trace my heritage back to the Germans that were here before it was sold to the British, before it became the U.S. Like, my family's been in fucking New York for forever. Like, there's no reason. But yet my sister has a fucking Confederate flag bumper sticker on her first car. And I'm like, okay.
It always just makes me smile, especially when I see it in Michigan. Like, it's like,
right. It's like they think it means rebel, and it's like, yeah, but rebel for why? Like,
I think a lot of it's just like redneck culture. They're like, oh, it looks cool, fucking, and not to mention like half of it's like on a fucking, like some monster truck T-shirt that you buy at the local truck stop, and it's like,
you know what I want to start doing? I want to make I'm
gonna run to the bathroom real quick. So
yeah,
sure.
Right.
Entertain yourself, children.
Okay.
I'm gonna make like a whole thing of like T-shirts and shit of like super redneck themed like communist flag stuff, and just be like, hey, it's a rebel flag, man. Like, rebel with a cause. Like, yeah, fuck the elite.
I have a very unpopular take on this. I think that even if it's obviously is tremendously tainted from slavery, I like the spirit of it. I like even though it's like it represents something that is obviously not very good. Like it's definitely not very good. I still like the people that are like, yeah, I like the fact that someone fought against the government, and that's why I'm repping this team, even though that they had some terrible principles that they were fighting for. But at the same time, I totally understand. Like, I would never rock it personally.
Right.
So.
I'm personally against the concept of repping losing teams in general.
Well, as a San Diego sports fan, I couldn't root for anybody if that was the case. I rep losing teams constantly.
See, that's why I pay the most attention to football, because I'm a New England Patriots fan.
Oh, well, then you never lose.
Yeah, exactly. We're fine.
And you're young enough not to have remembered the 90s when you guys were like the laughing stock.
Right. I started paying attention the year before Bledsoe got injured.
Oh my
God.
God.
Yeah. So I had like one season of Bledsoe and then watched Bledsoe get injured. Then we went to the Super Bowl, I think the next year, and it was game over from there. And it was literally like, because upstate New York. So I'm 4 hours from the Bills, 6 hours from the Jets and the Giants, and about 5.5 hours from the Patriots. So I kind of could take my pick, right? And
you chose well.
Right. And one of those teams was blue. I was 5. Like, one of those teams had blue jerseys. Blue and red were my favorite colors. So, like, yeah, Patriots. That's cool. Drew Bledsoe. That's a cool name.
I think that's the same spirit with which a lot of people rock the fucking Confederate flag, though. They're just like, that looks cool. It has colors I like. I'm dumb. I don't know anything about history. I'm rocking the Confederate flag.
Especially if you were like a Dukes of Hazzard fan.
Well, Dale Earnhardt fan too. Like my dad, giant Dale Earnhardt fan. Which, by the way, that was one of the best pages on Facebook, and I'm so sad that it got deleted because the page was called "The Ghost of Dale Earnhardt," and it was like the most like anarchist libertarian page ever. It talked mad shit about conservatives. He's like, "You motherfucking bootlickers! You know why we started hot riding cars? To run from the cops. Why were we running from the cops? Because fuck them." And like that's like everything is like on the Dale Earnhardt page. It's like, y'all like NASCAR, but you're bootlickers.
That's great.
But I guess before we get too far off the subject with the homeless thing, I think this is you're the perfect person to talk to about this, Clint, of whether this is actually feasible. But I've been bouncing around this idea of kind of like almost like a general housing strike. Like, because a lot of people are like rent strike. And I'm like, fuck that. Property tax strike, mortgage strike, rent strike. Like literally, like you as a tenant go to your landlord and be like, hey, I'm not paying rent. You shouldn't pay your mortgage. You shouldn't pay your property taxes. Like, we should all organize together and like as a unit, not like this tenant versus landlord bullshit. But like as a unit, be like, hey, this is extraordinary circumstances. This isn't like these people aren't getting evicted because they made mistakes or they pick like this is literally the gun of the government being like, fuck you. I'm in a 500 square foot apartment right now. I had to move out of my nice apartment and move in here because the government said that I couldn't run my business anymore. And I'm doing DoorDash right now. Like, that's explicit. Like, this is the government's fault. I made no choice to be here. Right. So is that even something feasible? Like, am I high on my own fucking farts here? Like, because I view that as maybe the compromise between like the left right answer to the upcoming eviction homeless crisis that's about to fucking destroy the country.
Yeah. Well, it's a really tough question. I mean, first off, the practicality of whether or not you could actually get people on board with that. That's like saying, can we get people to just stop paying income taxes? Because like if we all did it, they couldn't stop us, Like, sure, I agree.
Please,
but,
can
like,
we?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Start anytime now.
I agree, and I'm down, but like you're gonna get maybe 1% of people that'll actually get on board, and then they're gonna get fucking hammered by the state. So I feel like that's pretty similar to what you would see if you were to try and do a general, housing / rent strike. It's not a terrible idea. It's just like, could you actually implement it? And ultimately, like, I get the energy behind it, but who really gets damaged by that? It seems like the only person that gets damaged by that is the banks, correct? So we're basically we're punishing the banks for the government's behavior. And while I agree that the banks and the government are largely quasi in bed. I mean, they're totally in bed with each other. I feel like the government is the one that should pay the price for this more than the banks in this situation, because the government's the one that fucked our lives up with locking us out of our jobs and ruining our mental health and everything else. So I don't know. it's gray area for me, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just scrambling to find an answer because either kind of explanation to this of just like, well, it sucks, get fucked, the landlord's property rights. Like, you're gonna have hordes of people and they're going to come and eat you.
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry. Like,
oh,
I am a fucking property rights motherfucking lootless, and I am sitting here being like telling people like, I know I feel that way, but like, you know, you can be a vegan, but at the end of the day, when literally only thing in the room is a steak, are you going to starve or are you know?
I get your point. No, I get your point.
And then obviously on the same side of like, yeah, like rent strike and everything, like squat, refuse to leave your property and all of that. Like, I understand that from the left wing perspective, but not every landlord is some multi-property owning slumlord. Some landlords literally are like living above the apartment they're renting out. Some people are renting out rooms in their own home that they're currently living in.
It's tremendously common.
I can't comfortably be like, fuck those people. Because like when I lived in Chicago, I lived above a insurance shop that was run by a Chinese immigrant, and he just rented the room out to me. So
exactly.
like, that's why I always get like, everybody's like, fuck landlords. And I'm like, but that guy, you know, like
that guy was cool. Yeah.
Like,
no, I mean, and that's people have this perception that it's like everyone who's a landlord is super duper rich and is like crushing it. I mean, a landlord position is usually a sign of someone who's like barely broken out of lower class to middle class. Like, the rich people are fucking with the stock market. The people that are dealing with real estate and having tenants is a fucking bitch, by the way. As someone who's had plenty of rental properties, it's not fun. You wouldn't do it if you had better options. So like, you're normally, when you're dealing with a landlord, you're dealing with someone who's like, I mean, they may be white collar, but like they've worked and they saved and they invest. They did everything that you're supposed to do that's right. So for you to be like, fuck these people, we should get guillotines for them. It's like, this is insane. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's the level of left I can't fuck with.
Yeah. And that's what bothers me.
And again, like, I understand, like, fuck slumlords, fuck some insurance company.
I agree with that too.
Half in bed with the local government and owns like 300 fucking apartments and is not maintaining them and like finding them for paint chips that were already like, fuck those people. No argument. Yeah. But like
Donald Sterling, the owner of the Clippers, he made his billions off of being a slumlord, and then you've got to see exactly how much of a bad dude he was when he got caught on hot mic, you know, dropping N-bombs and stuff about his players. So yeah, I'm not defending those guys. So don't get it twisted.
There's an in-between, 100%.
Yeah. I think there's an in-between on the strike concept in general. I think there's a negotiation phase here that I think too many people are skipping. Like, if your landlord is one of those people who's in that situation, you know, there's an option about, how about I pay you half of my rent, and in return, like, I will either strike or I'll give you half, and in return you have to stop paying your mortgage and your property.
That's what the Housing Alliance in Portland is essentially doing, is they're intervening, and before they protest or raise hell or anything, they're facilitating negotiation between tenants and landlords.
And that was Larry Sharp's proposal too when he was on my show. He was like, that's what we're going to do. Half mortgages, half rent, half everything. That gets us to the other side of the pandemic. And then we fucking pick up the pieces from there. I was like, okay, you know, that's a fine compromise. But again, it requires basically government enforcement. Like, you can't get people to do this in unison voluntarily, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I don't like the idea of government enforcement at all.
I don't either.
I think this should be more of a case-by-case scenario, because there should be, because I don't know what percentage of your rent is profit. I don't know what percentage of your rent is going to property taxes or like interest on your mortgage. Like, I don't fucking know that. Most tenants don't know that of their own rent. So have that conversation. Figure out if your landlord is down for this thing. If they're going to still keep paying the government with your rent, stop giving it to them. Completely strike. If they're going to be down for this, and the whole now you have a landlord that owns maybe 300 units that's going to stop paying his property tax, that's a much bigger win.
Just one guy doing that too. Just like one kind-hearted soul that's like, fuck this shit. You know?
Yeah. But that guy, you and I both know that guy's going to prison.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's true.
They
can't arrest us all.
But
Well, yeah, that's why we have to do it as a general strike. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, like I said, I have 3 friends that are currently still sitting in jail because they decided fuck this, and they went and opened their bar up and stood out front of it with rifles, and they deployed Bearcats and shit on them, and they went to jail. So at some point, you have to like. I'm not saying accelerationist tactics, but at some point, which is another reason, like as a ex-lefty turned like libertarian that now runs with a bunch of lefties. That's something I do appreciate greatly about the left is like, I'll go to fucking jail. Fuck it.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to see that spirit on the right more of like, oh, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Like, screw this.
Literally like half of the episode with Dave was me screaming that. Is like, we need to see the Second Amendment folks on the right get real about this. Because like, if they're going to be the normal conservatives that just like watch Tucker get upset and then go to bed, like, good fucking luck, bro. Like you ain't keeping your gun. So yeah, people have to risk something. I mean, we are up against fucking crazy odds. And if you're not willing to risk something, we're going to get ran over one by one. And that's why, as much as I do not get down with commies, I'm open to this unity talk, because I don't have a fucking choice.
Yeah. Chips are down. Like shit is so many people just ask me questions of like, why are you in the Boogaloo movement? And I literally respond like gestures vaguely at everything. Like, just look what the fuck is going on, dude. Like there's nationwide riots. What was it, like a couple of days ago in 5 different countries in the European Union, they were fist fighting cops over the fucking lockdowns. Europe. This isn't America. This is kind old English fucking people.
Yeah,
beating on cops,
being more badass than we are. There's a problem going on.
Yeah,
and France is currently being more badass than we are. Like that's a reality that we as Americans have to accept.
It's even worse. Like Belgium, like sweet old fucking Danish ladies are throwing bottles at cops over lockdowns. Well, what are we doing?
Right.
So like
basically nothing.
That's why I scream about all my Twitter all the time is like the realization.
YouTube channels. That's what we're doing.
Right. Complaining. But yeah, like I always say, like the foundation of both libertarianism and communism at like the normie level, what people like me and you would do under these systems is go out and help your neighbor. That is exactly the same. They do it for vastly different reasons, but it's the foundation of like fucking you are responsible for your community now. There is no government to take care of it.
This is why I'm getting involved with the cultural debate more often now, is because our culture has been one of such severe individualism that we no longer care about our neighbors. Most of us don't even know our neighbors. It's like we have to go out and start to create these communities where we actually know these people, we care about them, they have our back, and vice versa. Like that's why I'm probably going to move into some sort of fucking, compound style community with other like-minded people that are like, I'm not giving my guns up. Because here's the truth. I don't want to fight and die. I don't want to.
I don't want to kill anybody either.
No, neither. I don't want to do either of those things. I don't want to die, and I don't want people to die. But I will not be unfree and alive. That's a fact. So I got to find fucking other people that make the odds more in my favor, that I don't have to kill somebody and I don't have to be killed. I want to be with people that can make it so daunting that the feds say, we're going to leave these fucking crazy people alone. And maybe it's a risk, maybe it's a stupid plan, but it's like, I don't see any alternative at this point. So you got to go out and find people like us.
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about libertarianism, because we care so much about individual liberties and individual responsibility, and we get painted as these like really staunch individualists, and we're not. Like, because libertarianism doesn't work if you only care about yourself. Like it does not work in reality. So most of us have these opinions. Like I agree with literally everything you just said. And most of my friends would too. But we get painted as this movement of people that don't care about our neighbors, that don't care about poor people, that don't care about anybody else. And that's just clearly bullshit. Not true. It's complete bullshit.
But I think to a small degree, not maybe ideologically, but in principle, it's true at least lately. To where the libertarian, like LP style libertarian, vaguely right libertarian, have not gone out and done libertarian shit lately. Right. And up until I was running around and up until like a couple of people, like I don't ever pull into a town and see local food drive put on by the Libertarian Party of Michigan. I see local food drive by the Democratic Socialists of America. Like that's what I see. And like, again, I'm not the only person doing this. Shout out to Dan, Taxation is Theft, to where they went down.
Yes.
They went down to Texas with some Boogaloo boys and went to a park, and they had guns, and they passed out illegal insulin to people.
So
Which that's violating the law. Like, you cannot give away medication without like a bunch of licensing and pricing and shit. They just went and did it. And then when people are like, those desperate people talk to you, like, oh, what are you about? Well, let me tell you about libertarianism. And that's the main thing of like, fuck the ads, fuck the YouTube channels, fuck the debates, fuck going on. What the hell? I blank. That's how irrelevant he ended up being. Goddamn. Where's Aleppo guy? Gary Johnson.
Oh, Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson going on Samantha Bee did less to grow the Libertarian Party than Dan did by just going down with some crates of food and some fucking insulin and walking around Houston.
Yeah,
like
because if you actually change someone's life and they understand your ideology, they might actually decide to look into it. Whereas if they just hear you fucking screaming into a microphone all day, but you don't ever actually do anything to assist them, it's you might convert a few people, but you save someone's life by giving them insulin. You're going to have someone that's really fucking ride or die for you for a while. So I think it's beautiful. I totally agree with you. We need a hell of a lot more of it.
Yeah, I mean, like one of my like key experiences when I was younger that kind of put me on this path to put me where I am now is in my hometown we have like the infamously shitty Department of Natural Resources and like animal control, to where I found this dog. This was a tiny dog in the middle of winter, and it was just wandering around, no collar, nothing. So I took it in and I called animal control, and I'm like, I got somebody's dog. You need to come like get it and find out who the owner is. And they're like, yeah, we'll be there. Day goes by, they don't show up. Day 2 goes by, they don't show up. I'm calling them like, can you come get this dog? Like some nice old weird white lady is freaking out over her little Pomeranian that's missing. Like, can you please come get this dog? Eventually, I just went to my neighbor who used to be an ex-police officer. And I was like, can you help me find this dog? Like, whoever owned this dog. And then we just drove around town and asked people, and then we found the dog.
Oh, that's dope.
And it was like people over government.
Yeah, man.
What is this crazy idea? And then like, again, like I told you, I stumbled into Ron Paul, like not much further after that. And I'm like, this is actually like a philosophical, like political idea of like, the government is useless, and people are more useful than the government. So like, again, like that's another example of like that dude taking his time out of his day to go find this fucking lady's lost dog and to, like, give it to him instead of waiting on the government to do it. That grows libertarianism. So like, I want to see like some giant food drive out in fucking California, and then I go there and everybody's wearing "Don't Tread on Me" shit. Like that would be like, fuck yeah.
I think a perfect example of this is like, I'm very blessed and I've had a lot of financial success pretty early in life. So like my friends, but I'm also, and I'll just be totally honest, in my 20s I was very miserly because I was broke. I was just trying to like accumulate so I could make some investments and start to do some shit. But once I got some money, like now all my friends, they know if they come to me and they ask for money, I got them. It's like, it's no big deal. I'll lend money to people. And because of that, because I am, gracious and giving, and I don't pressure people. I don't look down on them. I don't even fucking follow up half the time. I don't even care if I get paid back. But because of that, they now take my political philosophy way more seriously than they did when I was in my 20s, when I couldn't actually assist them, or I seemed like I was a selfish person. So I think there is really power in being both ideologically sound, but simultaneously, implementing charity and kindness in your real life, and pairing those two things, I think will lead us to a much more successful path.
Yeah. Well, Magnus, what you're talking about is something that we're really working on with the Liberty Unity Caucus, because we're planning. There is not a landing page yet, but there will be soon, because I'm backed up on my web development stuff. If anybody watching this is good at web development stuff, DM me on Twitter. I need you in my life, like really bad. Like
I have a Maculus meme smith that can make any kind of graphic design, but that's about all I can offer. If you've seen any of the crazy propaganda coming out of my Twitter, it's all made by one person. Her name is Sasha. She's a fucking wizard.
I will definitely be hitting you up for that, because that's something that I also have no skills in. I'm not a design person. I'm a wordsmith, not an anything else.
You're not a code junkie or a dorky artist like I am.
Nope, not even a little bit. But so this year, on Ron Paul's birthday, we are organizing a volunteer day where, completely decentralized, just go out and do something in the community.
I love it.
Wear something wear something libertarian themed, whether it's a campaign shirt for somebody that's running, or like your state party shirt or something libertarian. Go do a food drive, do a car wash, do a something, whatever your community needs. And let's honor real libertarian principles together, as a community, all together on the same day. And like let's try to change what people think about libertarianism, because it's really, like we're saying here, it's bullshit. Like, we don't actually think that way, but we're painted that way, and it's working well.
Yeah. Well, not only that do we not think that way, but we have acted that way. I think Magnus's point is really good. Is like, we haven't been out assisting people, and so if you aren't assisting people, and the government is, or the socialist people are, what do you think they're going to fucking lean towards? They're going to lean towards statism, or they're going to lean towards socialism, which is usually leads towards statism. So.
Yeah, like I always bring up the story of like how my activist career parallels like what happened with Bernie Sanders, which is a weird thing to say, but I'll explain. To where like in like 2008 and stuff like that, when I was going to environmental protests and stuff like that, like nobody could ever run in America as a socialist and get anywhere near the fucking presidency. They would be laughed out and booed out. But every single protest I went to, there was a DSA tent there, and they were passing out flyers. And from 2018 to like 2014, when I stopped being involved in activism as much, every single event had a DSA fucking tent there, or a DSA activist passing out flyers. Some of them, they got booed out. I've seen literally their table flipped and told to get the fuck out of here. But after years of doing that, who almost gets elected as president? Bernie fucking Sanders, Right. So like, why aren't libertarians doing that? Because, me as an environmental activist, if I wasn't already a libertarian, and Clint comes up to me and he's like, we don't need the EPA and all these agencies to protect the environment. We don't need prisoners to go pick up garbage. We can do that. Save your tax dollars. If you just told me that, I'd be like, that's bullshit. But if I'm walking down the street and there's Clint with like a bag of garbage and he has just picking up garbage and he's like, oh, by the way, we don't need the government to do this. It's like,
yeah,
you might be onto something,
Yeah.
Like
that's
do libertarian shit.
Right. I ran for office in 2019, and all of my support came from communists. All of it. Like literally all of it. Unfortunately, not very many of them lived in my district, so not a lot of my votes came from communists, but a lot of my support did, because what was I out there doing? I was out with No New Jails. I was out with Decrim NY, which is like a sex work organization. I was out there with Extinction Rebellion and the Sunrise Movement. I was at the climate strike where Greta Thunberg spoke, and like I was out there promoting libertarianism to communists, and they loved it. Like I got such a good reaction from these people, really, because I was out there saying things like shit like, let's completely dismantle like every federal subsidy into the fossil fuel industry. And they were like, okay, yeah, sure. And then I was saying shit like, if I was on city council, I would sponsor a bill that would put solar panels on every government-owned building in the city. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Because that's something like the city government has a budget. Like, I'm going to be one city councilman. I'm not going to scrap the budget or like end taxation by myself, right? So let's use the budget to do some good shit, right? We own buildings. Let's set a precedent. I was talking about like 10-year transition to where all police cars and like government vehicles in the city were electric cars. Like, again, completely doable. If we're gonna have cars, let's set a precedent and do what the government can do to move us forward.
As an anarchist, I totally support all of police vehicles being electric cars, because they will never fucking catch me again.
Well, they're very fast off the line, but you can, if you have a full tank of gas, they're
well,
gonna
Teslas are. But we wouldn't be giving cops Teslas.
I mean, if we're giving cops Dodge Chargers, I feel like we'd be giving cops Teslas.
I know.
And the thing is,
people,
Teslas are cheaper now. Like, so this is even like a conservative, like fiscally responsible talking point of, we don't have to talk about gas prices. We don't have like, there's a.
No, that's great because that's actually brilliant because the police don't travel outside of the town, so they would have no problem just like zooping, around the city with an electric vehicle. See,
Yeah.
again,
You're thinking. I like it. Hey, I gotta hit the gym, man. Is it all
okay,
right?
yeah, no, yeah, like I said, this is totally informal, so you can bounce out anytime.
right.
My timer reset, so I don't even know how long we've been live.
We are an hour and a half
Or
so far.
34 minutes.
Okay, this
Yeah.
might be the longest show that I've ever done. Then wow, we just got caught up in it.
Nice.
Okay, I guess we'll just fucking end it there because I feel like we covered mostly what I talked about and how we can solve some shit. So
I thought it was a very productive episode. Can I do my little plug spiel?
oh yeah, shit. There was one thing I wanted to tell you really really fast.
Oh, sure.
In Louisville, you want to know who ran that event that personally invited us there as armed security? Boogaloo Boys, Linda Sarsour.
No way.
I'll talk to you more like later after you get out of the gym and
Oh
DMs
my
to tell you about
God.
that. But I talked to Linda Sarsour and she was like, "Thank you, you're here. Like I know you guys go do your thing. Blah blah blah." I have pictures of like
That's fucking crazy.
so I was complimented simultaneously by Alex Jones and Linda Sarsour within the
Dude.
same 30 days of each other.
You should be like the mascot for Unity.
What the fuck? I don't even believe myself. I'm glad I remembered to bring that up to you though. I'll tell you more in the DMs. But
Yeah, please do.
Do the whole plug spiel.
Yeah, so I was on Part of the Problem today. It was yesterday, but it came out today. So please check that out if you guys like what I had to say. Liberty Lockdown on YouTube and Liberty Lockdown on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere else. And you can follow me on Twitter at Liberty Lock Pod. Love you guys. It was a blast.
Because that bus man.
I love gay people. I'm out.
Well, now that there's just two rainbow flags. See,
there's just two rainbow flags.
But we need division. I am vertical gang. I think the superior vertical race. Okay, you want to? Okay, so I'm going on your show. Like what? In a couple days?
Next Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. I've got honestly the lineup for the next 10 days on the podcast is fucking lit. Tomorrow we're recording with Scott Horton. I have Leilani from out in the Arizona LP. I have Kevin Hobby, who might be the Oklahoma State chair at the time. That election is this weekend. Then I've got Dan Berman and you on the same day. We've got the Redacted Caucus.
That's my boys right there.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
my boys right there.
Oh, yeah. Then we've got Carrie Wedler the following week. So
Carrie is sorry, I'm trying to remember who's the lady in LA that's running like the reopen LA thing. She's all over Twitter.
I believe that you might be talking about Angela McArdle.
Yes, okay.
From the Mises Caucus.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna start my own show and it's gonna run on Tuesdays, I think. And I might want her on there because I'm super again doing shit. She's a doer, so I want to talk.
She is a doer. I definitely it's the chair race is something that really is bothering me right now because I do like Angela, but I'm also a big fan of Joseph Bishop Henchman. I supported his run for chair. I support what he's been doing since he got there. He is also a doer. He's just not doing it on Twitter. And
That's fine.
he's a little bit more he's in a defensive position, and so he's a little bit quieter about what he's working on, and the party's just kind of doing, and it's a little bit of like quarterback mentality of where anything bad that the party does is because of the chair, and everything good that the party does is like because of the team, and it's like he's been doing a lot of good shit, and like we're not going to see it pay off for another year or two. So I don't necessarily support removing him from office, but I do support Angela. So I'm conflicted.
See, I'll bring them both on and I'll challenge them to not contradict each other the whole time and only talk about what they agree upon and things. That would be fun.
So I'm really excited.
Unity.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about stuff like that because so me and Reed Coverdale have a show along with our friends Jeremy Todd and Stacia Wilson that's live on Monday nights. It's called Fite and Friends. You can find it on YouTube. It also streams on the Fight for Liberty Twitter.
Was that the one where you were getting gangbanged over Antifa that I watched.
Yes, that was a super fun time.
I want to go on. So like,
Yes.
I might skip Liberty Monday and jump on that. So let me know. You can have me on twice in a week. We can just like live in each other's shows.
Yeah, I might have to have Griffin back on just so you guys can actually go at each other.
Body, dude. If I can change Alex Jones's fucking mind, I can change anybody's mind. That's how I feel. Like I went into that worried that like it wouldn't work. Hey, Reed's in the chat.
Speak of the devil.
Speak of the devil. But I'm like, yeah, if I can make Alex Jones not hate Antifa, then I can make anybody not hate Antifa.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
let's go.
Yeah, I would love to see that. But so Reed is pretty vocally, or not super vocally yet, but he's pretty pro Angela. I'm still pretty pro JBH. So we're hoping to get them both on the show pretty consistently when the chair race picks up. Maybe at least like maybe once a month, where they're both on and just building rapport with each other and with the audience, and not even really talking about the chair race. Maybe sometimes we are, but like also talking about like whose husband is worse at like cleaning up the house,
just becoming humans instead of libertarian robots.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I want to hear them talk shit, especially because I feel like they both have like some interesting gender roles going on in their house, because Angela seems to really like where yeah for sure so they'll be talking about like which husband, or whose husband is more like emotionally unstable.
That stuff's good. That stuff's fun. But right. So that's I will be going on your show, and then maybe both your shows. We'll see.
Maybe both. Yeah, for sure.
And then I'm going on Spike's show the Tuesday before I go on your show. So that's going to be cool. I'm going on Spike Cohen's show. So that's going to be an adventure. And then I'll get like April 3rd is the Anthony Hulin event. And then tomorrow I got some guys going to hang out, like meet up with Unholy Rome, if people might know him on Twitter.
Nice.
That's going to be crazy. So like just a lot of fucking shit happening. And then who else? Like, yeah, you listed out everybody who was going to be on your show. Do you have anything like any exclusive announcements of longer term stuff for your ex-Yal veteran boy here?
Actually, speaking of ex-Yal, there is somebody whose name I left out because it's in a couple of weeks. But one of the guys from that house, Jesse, who's going to be running for state vice chair in Nevada.
Which one was he?
He would shoot me. He was I think he was the oldest of the group. He was
like the kind of
Navy guy.
Yeah. He was a cool dude. That's cool.
Really cool dude. Yeah.
I would like to talk to him again, even though we never really talked because I just like ran away after one day of working.
Yeah, you just like dipped out like a fucking jackass, but that's cool.
But I was right. I called it.
You were right because that guy was a fucking neocon. That guy was a straight neocon, and that's why I hate Young Americans for Liberty. And
I love so many people in that organization, so I will not talk shit. I will not talk shit about it. Yeah. But a lot of people ask me like, should I join Yal? And I'm like,
not gonna lie, it was a lot easier like in the middle of the Yal 2 movement, because I could just openly shit on Yal and it was fine. Then they handled right. But then they handled it in the end. But they did make it easier because a lot of the people that I cared the most about in the organization quit in those couple of weeks. So it did make it a little bit easier. I wasn't pissing off the same people by talking shit about Yal anymore. But now I have people like Eric Brakey interacting with me regularly, and I kind of want to try to be nicer.
I think her name's Naomi from Texas. She follows me.
She's awesome.
I fucking love her, and I'm like, I don't want to talk bad about your organization. Mm-hmm. But again, that kind of shows that like the Libertarian Party idea went through a Me Too movement, and we handled it so much better than like anyone else did. You know, like everyone was like super respectful about it, and like everybody was like really supportive, and they didn't go after the accused super hard, but they didn't go after like the accusers super hard either. And like there was like receipts and details, and everything went through like really like maturely. And I'm like, God damn, we are literally better at handling everything.
We are better. That's really the libertarian pitch. We're better at handling everything than anybody else. So you should just listen to us from now on.
Just elect us or don't don't elect us, but also support us.
Elect the revolution.
Yes.
If you want to run for office, or you want to join and help people run for office, or help us burn it down in the end, you can go to campaignsforliberty.com/either join or run, whichever one you want to do, and fill out the form there. And let's try to not burn it down. And then if we have to,
I participate in both because I find it really easy to promote electoralism and then just go out and vote the one fucking day of the year you vote, and then talk about anarchy and fuck everything. Which is funny. I find it easier to put a communist and an anarcho-capitalist in the same room and have less fireworks than I do an anarchist libertarian and electoral libertarian. Like that's a harder unity to do because I can already see it like bubbling in the chat of like my friend Dustin's going to be like, fuck the state, fuck the LP. It's like...
Right. Meanwhile, I actually missed a Libertarian Party Pragmatist Caucus meeting tonight.
Oh yeah, you were supposed to go.
Man, I was represented. I'm. Oops.
Oh, okay, this has gone totally off the rail. We're gonna close this out. Yeah, I totally forgot that you were supposed to actually go do something.
No, I made the conscious decision. I was like, this conversation is better than that meeting probably was.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
I feel because again, like what libertarian and Republican or like Republican even or Democrat is talking about like solving the homeless crisis. Like this is just, I deliberately try not to get an ego about it, but there is nobody trying to do what I'm trying to do, and it's working. So it's like if it just failed fucking spectacularly and like the right and left hated me and I was getting nothing done, I would be like, okay, whatever. But like it almost seems easy to me to accomplish like all this shit of like I literally have like local LP chair member going to a communist homeless outreach tomorrow to have a conversation together. And that seems like easy to me. So I'm like, why am I the idiot doing this?
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. All right. Anyways, thanks for everybody for showing up. We'll be back next week. Will probably be another update because there will be like 3 or 4 different events and it will go back to the more usual how we handle things on the show. This is kind of more like drunken bullshitting and a little bit of productive conversation. So, but thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all later. Stay safe, stay free.